Okay, so continuing on, I was about to read the excerpt from the Dhammacetiya Sutta about King Pasenadi meeting the Buddha toward the very end of his life, and of course the Buddha himself getting quite aged. It looks like he's got the whole thing. Okay, so this is from the commentary. The king's palace and his brilliant capital now no longer gave him any pleasure. He left it for a time to wander from place to place with a large retinue, but with no special plan. And then this is the account of their last meeting. Thus I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was living in the Sakyan country at a Sakyan town called Medalumpa. Now on that occasion, King Pasenadi of Kosala had arrived at Nagaraka for some business or other. Then he told Digakarayana, "My friend, have the state coaches summoned. Let us go to the pleasure park to see a pleasant view." "Even so, sire," Digakarayana replied. When the coaches were ready, he informed the king, "Sire, the state coaches are ready. Now it is time for you to do as you think fit." So King Pasenadi mounted a state coach, and he drove with the full pomp and royalty in the direction of the park. He went thus as far as the road was passable for carriages. Then he dismounted and proceeded on foot. While he was walking and wandering for exercise, he observed roots of trees that inspired trust and confidence in him. They were quiet and undisturbed by voices, with an atmosphere of aloofness, where one could lie hidden from people, favorable for retreat. The sight of them reminded him of the Blessed One. Then he said, "Digakarayana, my friend, these roots of trees are like those where we used to do honor to the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened. Where is he living now, the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened?" "There is a Sakyan town called Medalumpa, sire. The Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened, is living there now." "How far is it from Nagaraka to Medalumpa?" "It is not far, sire, some 3 leagues. There is still daylight enough left to go there." "Then have the coaches made ready, my friend. Let us go and see the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened." "Even so, sire," Digakarayana replied. So the king drove from Nagaraka to the Sakyan town of Medalumpa, arriving there while it was still day. He went towards the park, driving as far as the road was passable for carriages. Then he dismounted and proceeded on foot. Now on that occasion, several bhikkhus were walking up and down in the open. The king approached them and asked, "Venerable sirs, where is he living now, the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened?" "We should like to see the Blessed One, accomplished and fully enlightened." "That is his dwelling, great king, with the door shut. Go up to it quietly and onto the porch without hurry. Then cough and tap on the panel. The Blessed One will open the door to you." King Pasenadi took off his sword and royal turban then and there, and he consigned them to Digakarayana. Digakarayana thought, "So the king is going into secret session now. Have I got to wait here alone now?" The king went up to the door as directed. When he tapped on the panel, the Blessed One opened the door. The king went into the dwelling, and he prostrated himself at the Blessed One's feet. He covered the Blessed One's feet with kisses, and he caressed them with his hands, pronouncing his name thus, "Lord, I am King Pasenadi of Kosala. Lord, I am King Pasenadi of Kosala." "But, great king, what benefit do you see in doing such extreme honor to this body and in showing such friendship?" "Lord, I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. The Blessed One is fully enlightened. The Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples have entered upon the good way. Now, Lord, I see some monks and Brahmins leading the holy life within limits for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And then later on I see them enjoying themselves, furnished with all the 5 kinds of sense pleasures, and indulging in them. Here, however, I see bhikkhus leading the holy life in all its perfection, as long as life and breath last. Indeed, Lord, I see nowhere else a holy life so perfected as here. That is why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. The Blessed One is fully enlightened, the Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, the Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples has entered upon the good way. Again, Lord, kings quarrel with kings, warrior nobles with warrior nobles, Brahmins with Brahmins, householders with householders, mother with child, child with mother, father with child, child with father, brother with brother, brother with sister, sister with brother, friend with friend. But here I see bhikkhus enjoying concord, living as undisputing as milk with water, and regarding each other with kindly eyes. Indeed, Lord, I see nowhere else any assembly so harmonious. That is also a reason why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. Again, Lord, I have walked and wandered from park to park and from garden to garden, and I have seen there some monks and Brahmins who were lean, wretched, unsightly, jaundiced, with veins knotted on their limbs, hardly such one would think as to make people want to look at them again. I thought, surely these venerable ones are leading the holy life dissatisfied, or they have committed some crime and are hiding it, that they are like that. I went up to them and asked why they were like that, and they replied, "We have the family sickness, great king." But here I see bhikkhus smiling and cheerful, sincerely joyful, plainly delighting, their faculties fresh, unexcited, unruffled, living by what others give, dwelling with minds like the wild deer. I thought, surely these venerable ones perceive extraordinary successive distinctions in the Blessed One's dispensation, that they are like that. That is also a reason why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. Again, Lord, as an anointed warrior noble king, I am able to have executed those who should be executed, to find those who should be fined, and to exile those who should be exiled. Yet when I am sitting in council, they interrupt me. Though I say, "Gentlemen, do not interrupt me when I am sitting in council. Wait till the end of my speech." Still they interrupt me. But here I see an audience of several hundred bhikkhus, and while the Blessed One is expounding the Dhamma, there is not even the sound of hawking or throat-clearing among his disciples. Once the Blessed One was expounding the Dhamma to an audience of several hundred, and a disciple of the Blessed One's cleared his throat. Then one of his companions in the holy life nudged him with his knee, saying, "Quiet, venerable sir, do not make a noise. The Master is expounding the Dhamma." I thought, it is wonderful, it is marvelous. An audience can be so well disciplined, it seems, without either punishment or weapon. Indeed, Lord, I see nowhere else any audience so well disciplined. That is also a reason why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. Again, Lord, I have seen here certain warrior noble scholars, certain Brahmin scholars, certain wise householder scholars, certain monk scholars that were clever and knew others' theories as a hair-splitting marksman knows archery. One would think they must surely go about demolishing false views with the understanding they possess. They hear, "The monk Gotama will visit such and such a village or town." They formulate a question. If he is asked like this, he will answer like this, and so we shall refute his theory. And if he is asked like this, and so we shall refute his theory. And if he is asked like this, he will answer like this, and so we shall refute his theory. They hear, "The monk Gotama has come to visit such and such a village or town." They go to the monk Gotama. The monk Gotama instructs, urges, rouses, and encourages them with talk on the Dhamma. After that, they do not even ask him the question. so how could they refute his theory? In actual fact, they become his disciples. That is also a reason why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. Again, Lord, there are Isidatta and Purana, my two carpenters, who accept food and keep from me, and whose provider of livelihood and bringer of fame I am. In spite of that, they are less respectful to me than they are to the Blessed One. Once, when I had gone out with an army on maneuvers and was testing these carpenters, I happened to put up in a very cramped dwelling. Then these two carpenters spent much of the night in talk on the Dhamma, after which they lay down with their heads towards where they had heard the Blessed One was, and their feet towards me. I thought, it is wonderful, it is marvelous. Surely these good men perceive extraordinary successive distinctions in the Blessed One's dispensation. That is also a reason why I believe this to be true of the Blessed One. The Blessed One is fully enlightened. The Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples has entered upon the good way. Again, Lord, the Blessed One is a warrior noble, and I am a warrior noble. The Blessed One is a Kosalan, and I am a Kosalan. Blessed One is 80, and I am 80. These are reasons why I think it is proper to do such extreme honor to the Blessed One, and to show such friendship. And now, Lord, we depart. We are busy and have much to do. It is time now, great King, to do as you think fit. Then King Pasenadi of Kosala got up from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, he departed, keeping him on his right. Soon after he had gone, the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus, Bhikkhus, this King Pasenadi has uttered monuments to the Dhamma before rising from his seat and departing. Learn the monuments to the Dhamma, remember them, for they are conducive to welfare and belong to the fundamentals of the holy life. This is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were satisfied, and they delighted in his words. So that is very different and diverse kind of aspects that King Pasenadi kind of notices. Also striking how he spent all his time talking and praising the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then didn't actually ask for any teachings. Got up and he's busy, and he says, get up and left. So I'd say a difficulty. But there's different. But certainly he had tremendous faith, and obviously saw things in the Buddha's life and teachings and the Sangha that inspired him. Any questions, comments? It's quite straightforward sutta, quite beautiful. What happened to the king after he left the interview is told only in the commentary. So this is from the commentary. When the king went to the Buddha's dwelling, leaving the royal insignia with Dighakarayana, the latter was resentful and suspicious. He began to fancy that the king had had his uncle, the general, executed after an earlier private interview with the Buddha, and now he wondered if his own turn was about to come. As soon as the king had gone inside the dwelling, Dighakarayana left, taking the insignia with him back to the encampment. There he told the king's son, Prince Vidudamba, to occupy the throne forthwith, threatening to do so himself unless he was obeyed. The prince agreed. Then, leaving behind one horse, a sword, and one lady of the zenana there, Dighakarayana and the rest of the retinue set off post-haste to Savatthi, after telling the lady-in-waiting to warn the king not to follow if he valued his life. When the king came out from the Buddha's dwelling and saw no one there, he went to the camping place. There the lady-in-waiting told him what had happened. He decided to turn for help to his nephew, King Ajatasattu. On the long journey to Rajagaha, he ate coarse food of a kind he was not used to and drank a lot of water. It was late when he arrived at Rajagaha, and the city gates were closed, so he had to pass the night hours in the common rest house. During the night he was attacked by a violent illness. Towards dawn he expired. The lady-in-waiting, in whose arms he died, set up a loud lamentation. My lord, the king of Kosala, who ruled 2 countries, has died a pauper's death and is now lying in a common pauper's rest house outside a foreign city. The news was carried to King Ajatasattu, who at once ordered a royal funeral. Afterwards, he made a becoming show of indignation by ordering a punitive attack against his cousin, now King Vidudabba. But he soon allowed his ministers to persuade him that, with the old king dead, such an attempt might be inexpedient as well as vain, and he duly recognized his cousin's succession. Of course, Ajatasattu didn't have a stellar kind of way of getting his kingship. Okay, so then this moves into mostly from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which is a long sutta, Digha Nikaya 16, and it is the account of basically the last year of the Buddha and leading to the Buddha's passing. And there's, but also parts of the Mahaparinibbana Sutta are also in, say, like Samyutta Nikaya, in the Udana, in the Vinaya. So there's bits and pieces scattered through the canon. But the how do you say it? The narrative is carried through with continuity in the Digha 16, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Okay, so this is, say, Nyanamoli speaking, leading up to this. The events that follow happened within a year, ending with the Buddha's attainment of final Nibbana. All these events, except for the mention of the final passing of the 2 chief disciples, are contained in one record or sutta. It is only now, in fact, that a chronological relation of events is resumed in the canon. Thus I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was living on the Vulture Peak rock at Rajagaha. King Ajatasattu was then anxious to attack the Vajrayans. He was saying, I will exterminate these Vajrayans who are so mighty and powerful. I will destroy them. I will bring them to rack and ruin. King Ajatasattu then told the Brahmin Vasakara, a Magadhan minister, Come, Brahman, go to the Blessed One and say, Lord Ajatasattu Vedehiputta, King of Magadha, pays homage with his head at the Blessed One's feet and asks if he is free from affliction and sickness and enjoying health, strength, and happiness. And say, Lord Ajatasattu Vedehiputta, King of Magadha, is anxious to attack the Vajrayans. He says, I will exterminate these Vajrayans who are so mighty and powerful. I will destroy them. I will bring them to rack and ruin. Note well what his answer is and report it to me, for perfect ones never lie. Even so, sire, Vasakara replied. Then he had a number of state coaches summoned. Mounting one of them, he drove out of Rajagaha towards the Vulture Peak Rock as far as the way was passable for carriages. Then he alighted and went on foot to where the Blessed One was. He greeted him and sat down at one side. When he had done so, he delivered his message. The Blessed One addressed himself to the Venerable Ananda, who was standing behind him, fanning him. Ananda, have you heard whether the Vajrayans hold frequent and well-attended meetings? They do, Lord. As long as they do so, Ananda, they can be expected to prosper and not decline. Have you heard whether they assemble in concord, rise in concord, and do their duty as Vajrayans in concord? Whether they avoid enacting the unenacted or abolishing existing enactments and proceed in accordance with the ancient Vajrayan laws as enacted? Whether they honor, respect, revere, and venerate the Vajrayan elders and think they should be heeded, whether they live without raping and abducting the women and girls of their clans, whether they honor, respect, revere, and venerate the Vajrayan shrines both in town and country, without allowing the lawful oblations hitherto given and made to lapse, whether lawful protection, defense, and guarding is provided among the Vajrayans for Arhants, so that Arhants who have not come to the realm may come, and Arhants who have come may live happily. They do, Lord. As they do so, Ananda, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. Then the Blessed One spoke to Vasakara. Once, Brahman, when I was living at Vesali, at the Sarandada shrine, I taught the Vajrayans these 7 things that prevent decline. As long as they persist and are taught among them, the Vajrayans may be expected to prosper and not decline. When this was said, Vasakara remarked, if the Vajrayans possess a single one of them, Master Gotama, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. So what can be said if they possess all 7? Indeed, Master Gotama, King Ajatasattu will never get the better of the Vajrayans by fighting, unless he buys them over and sows dissension among them. But now we must go, Master Gotama. We are busy and have much to do. It is time now, Brahman, to do as you think fit. Vasakara was satisfied. Delighting in the Blessed One's words, he got up and, after expressing his appreciation, went away. As soon as he had gone, the Blessed One told the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, go and summon all the bhikkhus who are living in the neighborhood of Rajagaha to meet in the service hall. Even so, Lord, he replied. When he had done so, he informed the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One got up from his seat and went to the service hall, where he sat down on a seat made ready. Then he addressed the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, I shall teach you 7 things that prevent decline. Listen and attend carefully to what I shall say. Even so, Lord. The Blessed One said, as long as bhikkhus hold frequent and well-attended meetings, as long as they assemble in concord, rise in concord, and do their duty as members of the Sangha in concord, as long as they avoid enacting the unenacted or abolishing the existing enactments, and proceed in accordance with the training precepts as enacted, as long as they honor, respect, revere, and venerate the senior bhikkhus who are experienced, long gone forth, and fathers and guides of the Sangha, and think they should be heeded, as long as when craving that leads to renewal of being arises, they do not fall into its power, as long as they esteem forest abodes, as long as they maintain mindfulness in themselves, so that decent companions in the holy life who have not come to them may come, and decent companions in the holy life who have come may live happily. So long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. Another 7 things that prevent decline. As long as bhikkhus avoid delighting, rejoicing, and taking pleasure in being busy, in gossiping, in sleeping, and in society. As long as they have no evil wishes and avoid falling under their spell. As long as they have no evil friends and avoid falling under their spell. As long as they do not stop halfway with the attainment of only the lower worldly distinctions, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. Another 7 things that prevent decline. As long as bhikkhus have faith, conscience, and a sense of shame, are learned, energetic, and mindful, and possess understanding, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. Another 7 things that prevent decline. As long as bhikkhus maintain in being the enlightenment factors of mindfulness, investigation of states, energy, happiness, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. Another 7 things that prevent decline. As long as bhikkhus develop the perceptions of impermanence, of not-self, of loathsomeness of the body, of danger, of abandoning of lust, of fading away of lust, and of cessation of lust, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. So that's from both the Digha Nikaya and Anguttara 7. And so that's say well-known teachings on the say the ways in which communities or societies, groups of human beings can, whether it's say monastic or lay, those are different ways that they can be expected to thrive as communities. And then it goes on, and this is just from the Digha 16, following that same theme. 6 things that prevent decline. As long as bhikkhus maintain both publicly and privately towards their companions in the holy life, bodily, verbal, and mental acts of loving kindness, as long as they are impartial and indiscriminate sharers with virtuous companions in the holy life, of lawful gain lawfully acquired, even of what is contained in the bowl, as long as bhikkhus among their companions in the holy life live both publicly and privately, possess the virtues that are unbroken, untorn, unblotched, unmottled, emancipating, commended by the wise, not misinterpreted, and conducive to concentration. As long as bhikkhus live possessed of the Noble One's view that leads out from the round of rebirth, that leads to the complete exhaustion of suffering for him who gives effect to it, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline. As long as these things that prevent decline persist and are taught among the bhikkhus, they may be expected to prosper and not decline. And while the Blessed One was living there at Rajagaha on the Vulture Peak Rock, he often gave this talk on the Dhamma to the bhikkhus. Such is virtue, such is concentration, such is understanding. Concentration fortified with virtue brings great benefits and great fruits. Understanding fortified with concentration brings great benefits and great fruits. The heart fortified with understanding becomes completely liberated from the taints, from the taint of sensual desire, the taint of being, the taint of views, and the taint of ignorance. When the Blessed One had lived at Rajagaha as long as he chose, he said to the Venerable Ananda, "Come, Ananda, let us go to Ambalatika." "Even so, Lord," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One journeyed to Ambalatika with a large community of bhikkhus. While there, he lived in the king's house in Ambalatika. And while the Blessed One was living there too, he often gave this talk on the Dhamma to the bhikkhus. Such is virtue, such is concentration, such is understanding. Concentration fortified with virtue brings great benefits and great fruits. Understanding fortified with concentration brings great benefits and great fruits. The heart fortified with understanding becomes completely liberated from taints, from the taint of sensual desire, the taint of being, the taint of views, and the taint of ignorance. When the Blessed One had stayed at Ambalatika as long as he chose, he said to the Venerable Ananda, "Come, Ananda, let us go to Nalanda." "Even so, Lord," the Venerable Ananda replied. Then the Blessed One journeyed to Nalanda with a large community of bhikkhus. While there, he lived in the Pavarika mango grove in Nalanda. So that Ambalatika must be like Nalanda and Rajgaha are maybe about 15 kilometers apart. It's one day's walk. 2-hour bus ride. Yeah. And so it's so somewhere along the way, a nice easy walk for an old man. And it'd be Rajgaha and Ambalatika, and then Ambalatika on to Nalanda.
You weren't old when you did that walk?
No, I wasn't. I was saying for the Buddha. We were still fired up. Although we had spent a couple nights at Nalanda because our feet were so bad, beaten up. It was nice to be able to. I think it was a couple nights.
Yeah, Nalanda's closer to Gaya than Rajagaha. It's in between something.
Oh, no.
Rajagaha was the 2-hour bus ride.
Oh, between. Yeah. That makes more sense. Yeah, Rajgaha and Bodh Gaya.
Nalanda to Rajagaha is quite straight.
Yeah, it's quite close. Yeah, when you said 2 hours, well, Indian
I was
roads.
thinking from Bodh
Indian
Gaya.
roads, you never know. But I think those teachings on the ways that promote concord and prevent decline are really worthy things to be contemplating. Okay, then this next one is similarly from the Dika from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, but it also appears in the Samyutta Nikaya, Samyutta 47, Sutta number 12. Then the Venerable Sariputta went to the Blessed One and said, "Lord, I am convinced of this, that there never has been, never will be, and is not any other monk or Brahmin more distinguished in enlightenment than the Blessed One." That is a grand and bold statement to make, Sariputta, an uncompromising lion's roar to utter. Are all past Blessed Ones accomplished and fully enlightened, then, known to you by reading their minds with your mind thus? Such was their virtue, such their concentration, such their understanding, such the attainment they abode in, such the manner of their deliverance? No, Lord. Are all future blessed ones accomplished and fully enlightened, then known to you by reading their minds in that way? No, Lord. Am I now accomplished and fully enlightened, then known to you by reading my mind in that way? No, Lord. Then how can you make this grand and bold statement and utter this uncompromising lion's roar? This wonderful exchange, the Buddha holding to account, not just sort of listening to praise. And Lord, I have no knowledge of reading with my mind the minds of past, future, and present, accomplished and fully enlightened ones. Nevertheless, a certainty about the Dhamma is known to me. Suppose a king had a frontier city with strong ditches, ramparts, and bastions, and a single gate. And he had a wise, clever, sagacious gatekeeper there who stopped those whom he did not know and admitted only those whom he knew. And since he had himself gone round the path encircling the city and had seen no gaps in the ramparts or any hole even big enough for a cat to pass through, he might conclude that living beings above a certain size must go in and out through the gate. So too, Lord, a certainty about the Dhamma is known to me. All past blessed ones, accomplished and fully enlightened, had their minds well established upon the four foundations of mindfulness after abandoning the five hindrances, the defilements of the heart that weaken understanding. They have discovered the supreme full enlightenment by maintaining in being the seven enlightenment factors. All future Buddhas, all future blessed ones, accomplished and fully enlightened, will do likewise. The Blessed One now, accomplished and fully enlightened, has done likewise. I thought this, to me, it's just a very beautiful exchange where the Buddha sort of, questioning Sariputta and saying, okay, well, that's pretty outrageous statement to be making. But of course, Sariputta has this incredibly logical mind and not prone to saying things just off the cuff. So he did have a logic for his statements. Any questions, comments as we're going along here?
I've forgotten how Manamoli translated. It would be like this, the seven Vajradhammas.
Yes.
The very last one to the bhikkhus. Is that?
Well, the very last one to the bhikkhus.
Something like.
Of the first set.
First set.
Yeah. Let's see. Bloop, bloop. Oh, okay. As long as they maintain mindfulness in themselves, so that decent companions in the holy life who have not come to them may come, and decent companions in the holy life who have come may live happily, so long may they be expected to prosper and not decline.
Yeah, that translation, or that teaching is like touched me because it would kind of, I didn't expect it when I first read it, and I first looked at it along on it, but it's like, it's translated differently by some translators, but yeah, it's kind of like, it goes against this notion of like the forest speaker, like the lone wolf.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and and of course it begins with the, as long as bhikkhus hold frequent and well-attended meetings, so that, assembling in concord, rising in concord, doing their duties as members of the Sangha in concord. So that's it isn't, obviously that the Buddha encourages solitude but it's in the context of Sangha, and knowing how to create a strong Sangha, a strong community that really is a treasure in the sense it takes a lot of patience and care and relinquishment to create those conditions so that there is concord, and that there's also that sense of decent companions in the holy lives, want to actually come, and those who have come want to stay, because it's. That's one of the things in the Sangha that like in Christian monasticism, there is you have a commitment to place. It's very, very strong. That's the kind of the foundation of it, and it takes a lot. Like it took like Father Thomas Merton years to be able to go to some other place to study a bit more, learn a bit more, because that one of the basic foundations of the Christian, from the early Christian communities, and yet they're very much rooted in place. That commitment is very strong. So that when there's not that same commitment, then you've got to create, within within Buddhist practice, there is a lot of movement, and that's where the Buddha even says, as long as they esteem forest abodes, so that there's a lot. It's more of a peripatetic, wandering sect, so that it takes some effort to develop the community and to have that commitment, because you're not bound to it. Those bonds are what are created through respect and one's own feeling of wanting to share.
For a historian commentators, he said of all the world religions, actually Buddhism was kind of the pioneer in that regard, because most religions, they take root in a certain place, certain rivers, certain mountains were holy, whereas Buddhism, everywhere it went, could make holy by bringing relics and monastics and the teachings, and it wasn't bound to a single place.
So it's as we're seeing, here we are in the 21st century in societies and cultures that Buddhism has never been, and places it's taking root. Yeah.
I'm wondering, is that something that the ancient Western philosophies didn't have, like Socrates' time, they had groups, but they weren't held together with like an institution or organization kind of thing?
No, the Greek philosophers, there was never communities grew up with them. Of course, early Christianity was probably your earliest communities were in Egypt and Ethiopia. That's those are probably the most ancient, and I think it's the monastery of Saint Catherine. It's in the Sinai. That's the oldest, continuously inhabited monastery in the monasteries come and go. That's like Bungwa, like Wat Manachat, is built on the site of a monastery that when we were there, the lay people knew of it, but there was an old Uposatha hall, the boundary markers for the Uposatha hall were there, but it was like from 600 years ago. So that, yeah, monasteries come and go, but that, it's this St. Catherine, I think this monastery is St. Catherine. I couldn't verify that, but it is a very, very old, the oldest monastery. It's been there since 200-300 AD. Began, and it's been inhabited, and Ajahn Sumedho and Ajahn Amaro, along with a few others, went to visit, and they sent word ahead of time, so they had sent one of the monks received them, and going in and going through it to visit and see it, and there was some construction project going on, fixing up an old building and doing something, and the monk apologized, said, oh, I'm really sorry, got this building project on, and of course the monks just sort of burst out laughing and said, no problem, we know what monasteries are like. There's no such thing as, here it is, this is 1700-year-old monastery that's still not finished being built. So it's quite ordinary.
It seems like another thing that keeps monastery together is the practical skills, practical knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that's a flavor of the Buddha's teaching, that a distinctive quality of the Buddha's teaching is just how practical it is on every level. That's how he makes attainment of liberation and the highest spiritual possibility in the human condition realizable through practical means, rather than setting it up into some abstruse philosophy or whatever. And then on the day-to-day aspects of living. The Vinaya is just astoundingly practical.
Is there a Vinaya rule about a monk that's
running out of time. It's 10:40.
Was there a rule about monks not being able to be away from another monk for a certain period of time? Something that had to do with chanting Patiboka?
Oh, I mean, if you're in a community, you can't just be on your own. But if you're on your own, you can do the uposatha on your own. But if you're with a group, then you have to do it all together.